Hello, all, and welcome to the Illinois Teachers Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Butts, joined as always by my co host, but not this morning, Miss Garcia. So, we had some issues yesterday. Mr. B ran into some car troubles, didn't find his way home until about 10 p.m., 9:30ish last night, and Miss Garcia, she is actually starting some new courses, so we will not be joined by her, sadly, this morning. A little background information on her. She is a applied behavior analysis therapist. She works around in the Chicagoland area, so she does have some insight on teens, unhealthy relationships, as well as the issues that they go through on a day-to-day basis. But moving on, today's topic is a very tough topic to talk about, and even harder topic to imagine. Our life is surrounded and built on relationships that we have, whether they're good or bad, healthy or unhealthy. We'll be focused on unhealthy relationships and how they affect teens. I know what you're thinking. What do you mean, Mr. B? I don't have good relationships with my mom, my dad, my parents, my siblings, my friends. Nothing's wrong with me. Well, whether we believe it or not, our relationships help shape our perception of the world around us. What we think is normal may be wrong because of the poor and unhealthy relationships that surround us. In today's episode, we're going to focus on an article I came across that is what I was alluding to before. The article is titled, U.S. Cracks Down on Female Teachers Who Sexually Abuse Students. This article was produced and edited by Barbara Goldberg, Scott Malone, and Andrew Hay from the Reuters News Company. So let's dive into this topic. There are two outstanding pieces from this article that I found and that I would like to share with you. For each piece, I would like to share my own insight, and then from there build into how this unhealthy relationship affects teens. Christopher Anderson, Executive Director of Male Survivor, the largest U.S. advocacy organization for male sex crime victims, points out the crackdown of female teachers whom have abused their male students is the result of a seismic shift. Here he states, one is a recognition that it does not matter who the perpetrator is or what the circumstances are. A teacher has absolutely no business engaging in sexual contact with a student, Anderson said. Me personally, as a teacher, I know that the bond between a student and a teacher is a special and a close one. But a teacher must be able to find the distinct line between what can be done and what can't be done. Make sure that line is never towed, and a teacher doesn't use the teacher-student dynamic as a way of getting closer to a student in an inappropriate way. The bond between the teacher and the student becomes a source for the student to put trust in someone. And this is what I was getting at with how this relationship, if unhealthy, can affect teenagers. Like I said, this is a part where students and teachers, this bond becomes a source of trust for them. Especially if the person gets along with the teacher or has common interests, this can ultimately affect the teenager's trust in adults and authority figures, giving them the perception that that trust was only earned to get something from them and it wasn't genuine. My next piece from the article comes from Terry Abbott, who tracked cases as a former chief of staff at the U.S. Department of Education. There is no central U.S. reporting system for tracking female teachers who prey on male students, according to federal education officials, but Abbott has been charting the crimes from news coverage. His research shows that female teachers, far more often than male teachers, use social media to lure students, creating an electronic paper trail that may aid to prosecutions. Now, again, as a general thumb, me personally, I do not give out or post anything specific on my social media. I put barriers in place to protect myself. Social media is a unique beast that emotion and conversations with no context surrounding it can easily be misconstrued. This way, I avoid putting myself in a compromising position that I can't defend myself from. So, I personally don't add students on Facebook or Instagram or any of that stuff. And then on top of that, so I don't either post things that I'm sharing my emotion on a social media outlet. Instead, I will just because I'm a wrestling coach, so I repost wrestling videos and Marvel movie stuff, and so things that are super general that has no bearing of who I am, what I'm doing with my life. I keep that part of myself separate from social media. Social media has become an outstanding source for people to connect in ways that are unimaginable. It has made it easier for the exchange of information, but also creates a generic, faceless platform that can be taken advantage of. The interactions of online, opposed to face-to-face, can easily mask emotion and create a demeanor, a trust, and a bond for only those two people to see. It offers a look and a feel of being with that person outside of a professional setting. The teen can be easily convinced that anything that grows from this is a friendship and that it's okay that it goes beyond the professional setting. This breach in trust can affect a teen's understanding of how a digital conversation is differentiated. If a teacher and a student engage in conversation through a social media outlet and it becomes something where they're starting to kindle a friendship, that teen is going to start to believe that this is a genuine relationship. We get along, we have these common interests, and all of that can be destroyed by a teacher who ends up trying to abuse them. This would lead that teen down a path that's misguided, a misunderstanding of how that digital conversations and friendship actually were, and then that breach of trust now is their alignment is skewed. They won't figure out if someone's actually trying to be their friend on social media or if they're just trying to get something like what they had to experience themselves. This obviously was great stuff. We can't obviously fix this issue through a podcast, but we can be vigilant in helping others and putting up barriers to protect teens from these unhealthy relationships. Teens may not understand or comprehend the issue that come with a unhealthy student-teacher relationship. It is important for us as teachers and listeners of this podcast to take notice of warning signs, provide information for students, and provide guidelines for teachers. We as teachers need to protect our profession and the lives that are placed in our trust. Alright, so next week's topic, we'll be focusing on lesson planning, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is Mr. B signing off, and today's Mr. Jesky joke of the day is, don't cheat on this quiz. If I wanted to see a cheetah, I'd go to the zoo. That's a knee slapper. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.